Do you have experience of creating a shared folders?
No.
No. Okay, cool.
We have a lot of the clients that I support, they're always using SharePoint and OneDrive.
Okay, so pretty much your experiences on the cloud, just kind of managing cloud-based stuff. For example, have you had any experience on Intunes, doing deployments and rollout?
A lot of experience with Intune, SharePoint, OneDrive, all of these kind of cloud-based sharing.
Okay, can you talk to me about steps on how to enroll a workstation onto Intunes and then deploy permissions and the software too?
Never actually done that through Intune.
Never done it through Intunes. Okay, cool. All right, we'll leave it as that regarding questions.
Okay, hey guys, hope you're well. Yeah, it's been a while. No, it hasn't been a while to be fair. Yeah, it's just gonna go straight into it. The title kind of says it all. I put out in the community if you guys would like me to talk to you or give it, or no, not talk to you. What did I say about it? What was the question in the community? Something about an interview. 1 minute, let me just check. Okay, do you want an insider look at my process for hiring a top IT technician? Should I create a video revealing how I interview candidates for the role? And then overwhelmingly, you guys have said yes, you would like, and you voted for that. I put that in the community, and you've also had likes as well. So ironically enough, I was doing process of recruitment for a new role, and the job role, I'll tell you. So basically, a school IT technician, field base. We provide a special IT support, blah, 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 not having blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so as a consequence of rapid growth, we are looking to recruit an IT technician to join our growing team. You will provide IT support to all of its schools, mostly in the London Borough. It's an excellent opportunity, progression of your career, stuff like that. So obviously we put that on the post. I am just going to run through the key responsibilities. Maintaining a comprehensive database of all support and fault requests, with support prioritizing according to needs. So that's basically like a help desk system. So if you've got first line experience support, then you'll be familiar with that. Providing support to staff and pupils as required in relation to technical aspects of IT hardware, software, and cloud-based solutions. Due to the issues raised, a successful candidate may be required to liaise with outside parties. Support various types of hardware, including PC support, laptops, tablets, printers, copiers, interactive whiteboards, panels, sound systems, and any other hardware, software not listed. Well, that's a range of hardware and software. To be honest, anything with powers, they ask an IT person to come and have a look. If the microwave's not working, can you have a look at that, please? It's IT. Supporting the IT manager in the effective operation and management of the IT network of all schools. Supporting the IT manager with the creation and management of all network user accounts, ensuring correct access rights in a domain environment. Supporting the installation of software hardware as requested and maintaining a record of installation carried out. Supporting the implementation of systems and data backup procedures, ensuring in the event of data loss the backups are fully functional. Support with management of Google Workspace across the school. Office 365, Google Workspace and Office 365, which is kind of a platform which a lot of schools are cloud-based platforms. They're kind of like default because they are free for education, the first stage of it anyway. Ensuring that security entry systems is maintained, staff visit, have relevant access and ID badges are issued. Support with antivirus protections, ensuring that the domain is regularly checked for viruses or malware. Now you'll see a lot of things based on domain. It's because of the schools that the IT technician, that the ideal candidate will be managing, they still have on-prem servers with domain environments. So required experience I put down as providing IT support to the educational sector or similar environment, both remotely and on site, including managing users in Active Directory and signing group policies, supporting and troubleshooting AV equipment, projectors, smartboard, interactive touch screens, Google Workspace, Office 365, obviously have experience with DNS, DHCP, TCP/IP, migrating Windows from OS from 10 to 11, deploying images using SCCM, WDS, managing devices with MDM tools like Meraki, Jamf, and Intunes, handling security with handling antiviruses, familiar with Software Central, because a lot of the schools we manage their main default antivirus is Software Central because they get it through a London Grid for Learning for free or part of their package. Yeah, and then you've got like flexible can-do approach, ability to work with others, those kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily for a first line support role, and it's not a senior technician role, you're just a technician. So you're kind of like, you've done with the first line support. You could have been probably help desk, ticketing system, which predominantly what first line support is, and you have a bit of experience of dealing with face-to-face problems, hardware solutions, repairing, rebuilding, understanding network infrastructures. So So I'm looking for that kind of middle candidate who's a network IT technician who knows how to maintain a system. With a senior technician, I would probably want more able to implement things, able to manipulate scripts, understanding how to deploy or set up deploy. So instead of you maintaining the system, are you able to implement the system to maintain? So are you able to set things up? I would class a senior technician as something where set up the WDS or set up SCCM, set up Active Directory domain. I class a senior technician to be able to do those things, set up the environment, set up the infrastructure. And then network manager is more to do infrastructure, like network designs and implementations, network maintenance and troubleshooting, security management. So they should be able to recommend things. Yeah, and then obviously if you're a network manager, you're managing a team. So you are able to like design and deploy network solutions to whatever the business standards are. You should be able to deploy and maintain infrastructures, including routers, switches, firewalls, and implement these kind of things. Yeah, things like that. So you are the head guy. So basically a me, really. So that kind of role, I would say. So, and your senior technician should still be able to do certain things, as in, like I said, set up a server, set up a domain, set up SCCM, set up MDTs, you know, these kind of things. This is how I kind of judge the standard of technicians I would want to hire into my environment. So this specific candidate, I would need to not be a first line support because I'm not training. They should be confident enough to do first line and second line support. So I'm basically looking for like a second line engineer who understands the network, understands how to maintain a network, and I don't have to show them too much because they know how to manage and support staff with the day-to-day challenges what comes. I need someone to kind of hit the ground running, you know, if a workstation is not working, you know, why is that network not working? Look into doing all these basic kind of troubleshoot or the certain troubleshooting skills where I'm expecting for that specific person to have. I'm babbling on. Okay, cool. So I do 3 stages of the interview. The first stage is a face-to-face, so kind of face-to-face. I do a Teams interview. Then the second stage is practical, and then the final stage is obviously we meet up face-to-face. If they don't pass this first stage, I don't necessarily go and do the second stage, which is the practical. What you'll see in this interview will be me trying to kind of gauge what his knowledge and his background is and his experience, and also try and understand the personality and see if he'll be a fit for the team. I'll give you a bit of back end about the candidate. So it was an agency what reached out to say that this specific person will be ideal for the role because he's been doing first line support. It also touches on second line support as well. He's doing a level 4 apprentice, which therefore means he'll be doing more network related stuff because he wants to be that side of IT, networking side. So with the specific role of me just wanting a technician, I don't normally interview someone who is actually doing an apprentice at level 4 because I would assume that they don't have enough experience to do the role. But the agent assured me that this person was a strong candidate for the role once he saw the job description. So I said, okay. So what I just did was explain the role, explain the business and expectations and the requirements of like what we do and how we support our customers.
If you could tell me a bit about yourself, what was your been doing, a bit more history about what you've done, studied, and currently what you're interested in doing moving forward, career-wise.
All right, so what I do, I ask the person to talk to me about themselves, share their experiences. I want them to sell themselves to me, and I'm looking for someone to show me enthusiasm and an interest in the subject and in the role. You can sometimes tell from people that they generally don't have a passion, like interest. And interest is a very important part of IT because I think, especially when someone's coming in from the early stage of their career, you don't know if they're going to continue it. And IT is always an evolving career. It's constantly evolving. There's constantly things you have to learn, constantly things you have to be up to date with. There's so many trends and there's so many skills you need to require to be a good IT technician because there's so many different aspects of IT within the role which intertwine with each other. So you have to have a range of knowledge on a number of things, not just purely like networking or programming or even AI, which is obviously a popular thing at the moment. You still have to understand the concept of, you know, hardware, software, especially now that things are getting more web-based, integrated into like web apps. We are very rarely installing software as we used to do 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you used to provide CDs and maybe USB sticks and you had to physically install the software on these devices. Now everything is web-based, or we're doing more and more of web apps, which you install a client and then it still refers to the internet for a lot of its resources. So you have to have a general interest, and that's what I'm looking for, is there's a key interest in the role. You need to show me that you're enthusiastic about it as well. And personality is a big thing, you know, because for me personally, I look for more kind of bubbly personality, because when you're in this role of customer service based, especially when it comes to education, because you do a lot more communication than you do in the private sector, there's a lot of stresses from educational staff members, and they want their systems to work to be able to function, teach and deliver and whatnot. And there's stresses within that, and you need to be able to basically show me that you can communicate what you're doing to reassure them, calm them down, to get things done. And communication is really a good key, and communication is actually quite difficult to find with IT people, to be honest, you know, good communication skills, because sometimes people just, with a lot of IT engineers, especially good ones, they may not want to be customer service based. You don't really need to, you just need to fix a problem. So even more so now, you know, a lot of engineers, when they do reach out to me about the role, they say, is there working from home options? Which unfortunately with this specific role, no, there isn't. So, you know, I'm sometimes a bit of a struggle to get good candidates, because some IT guys like to work from home majority of the week. It's their preference. But anyway, so I'll continue the video so you can hear the candidate's response.
IT, I was doing a level 3 Azure cloud support. So I was just working on a help desk, basically doing pretty much first line stuff. Finished my level 3 apprenticeship, then went straight to just working as a first line engineer, pretty much.
Okay, so can you give me a bit more insight of like what kind of your daily tasks will be?
Daily basis would be working on a ticket desk, doing a lot of administrative stuff in terms of Azure Active Directory, a lot of things like that, setting up new users, resetting passwords, and then done a little bit of networking side as well, because we would go out on site quite a lot. My role anyway, I was maybe on site 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
All right, so that's what I'm trying to get out of him, is when I say, you know, give me a bit more description about your role, I like people to explain their steps. So he was a bit vague when it came to, he said obviously he was doing, which links to Active Directory, so it's an element of cloud-based and on-prem. So what I wanted to kind of explain to me, what exactly are you doing on Azure? You could say, all right, I'm administrator for Azure. Okay, cool. Explain to me the certain things that you do, so now I know that you're talking about, and I could say, okay, yeah, you are aware of how to use Azure. I've done a lot of these interviews where people, they say a lot of things, and then when you try and dig down to a bit, okay, cool, so how do you do this? Or what would you do in this scenario? They're unable to say so because they don't actually administrate it as they proclaim to say, basically.
What kind of network related stuff were you doing, for an example?
We were setting up firewalls, setting up NASs, installing switches, or if any of those go down, go out on site. Usually a lot of the times it's just a little reset, but still have to go, and doing a lot of hardware stuff as well, working, building machines, fixing hardware problems.
What kind of firewalls were you interacting with?
Range, but mainly Cisco ones.
Cisco firewalls.
Mainly Cisco.
What would your involvement be with the Cisco firewalls? What would you do to try and talk to me about, like, you know, how you would log on and a bit more detailed about exactly what you would do on the firewall?
All the time, I wouldn't exactly set them up while I was doing my apprenticeship or first line. I'd work with the project engineer, and he'd kind of set up, patch it, and then I'd do the installing physically.
Or just putting it in the rack and screwing it in?
Putting it in the rack and then just cabling it up.
Okay, so your experience as into the process of actually doing anything on it was limited. So you only, realistically, you kind of watched him do it, and then you...
I've logged on, and then, because sometimes certain companies that we work with, they want certain things blocked. So I'll block it on the firewall, whitelisting websites as well as blacklisting them. Probably as far as my experience goes as of working on them.
So that's fine, but before that, he made it out that he had a lot more experience with the firewalls, and I think he mentioned routers at the same time as well. The next, obviously for me, I had to say, okay, cool, so what did you exactly do on them? And, you know, to explain to me the process, you know, what was the GUI interface you used? What was it? So then therefore he was able to explain a bit more detail. He basically whitelisted websites or allowed websites. That was most of the experience he had. And remember, he also said that he goes on site, I think it was 2 to 3 times, but it seemed that his experience on site was quite minimal in the things that he wanted to do. So the role that I'm advertising, the role that I would want for the ideal candidate, is for him to have far more experience with dealing with on-site issues and troubleshooting issues, where he was just more or less kind of following instructions. You know, he's trying to sell himself, don't get me wrong, that's what they're trying to do, but me as an interviewer, interviewer, I'm trying to get, okay, what did you do exactly and what do you know? So I don't waste my time on the second stage of the interview where therefore I'll invite the person back or not. So I need to kind of gauge if he's worth the second stage of the interview.
When you were logging onto it, what was it, a cloud-based system that you were logging onto?
Yeah, cloud management. So we machine. A lot of our sites, we had a management machine. I'd remote onto the management machine, then remote onto the firewall through there.
Okay. How long was the role for that you were doing?
I was there for 2.5 years.
And how come you left?
I wanted to go more rather than just sitting behind the help desk, sitting on the help desk. I wanted to kind of move away from that. And there wasn't really as many opportunities to do that there. Even though I was on site, the majority of the time I'd still be sitting behind help desk, just working on tickets, which I don't mind. It's not bad. I don't think it's ideal for me. I feel like for me, I'd rather be out on site, fixing things, speaking to clients face to face. A lot better at that. Enjoy it as well.
All right, so that's the aim. So regarding, obviously, there's quite a range within IT in how you would want to progress from cybersecurity, from AI now. You've got obviously programming, coding, etc. So what's your kind of key interest within IT? Which kind of path would you like to go down?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but there are things that I like, but there's, like you said, there's such a wide range, and there's even things that I've not even had exposure to or even looked at I might be more enthusiastic about.
Okay.
So that's why at the moment I'm kind of looking at going down this networking route. When I did have experience with it, I did enjoy it.
Okay, so when you were, for example, messing around with firewalls and stuff like that.
Yeah. So probably going down the network engineer route, that's probably the best. Well, that's the idea for me at the moment.
Okay, so he's being very honest there regarding he's still undecided of what network path or kind of career path he wants to go into regarding IT, which is great in the sense of like he's being honest, but obviously for the purpose of the interview, it doesn't necessarily sit well with me because I need someone who wants to know the direction they're going to if I'm going to effort and resources into developing the specific person. And obviously networking is something which our field is, and obviously a lot more networking and cloud-based systems. He said, yeah, he obviously touched on that and there's an interest in it, but I'm not getting the passion for it. Sometimes you want someone to kind of elaborate with what they do with IT. You know, like he could have talked about setting up an IT system at home, maybe setting up an environment where he's controlling these things and navigate, you know, just like outside projects or things that he's generally interested in. He might set up some simulators, I don't know. But for me, like I used to do a lot of things personally just to try and see what things do and whatnot. I had like back in the day, I literally had obviously PCs I used to build, but also networks I used to make. So I used to literally make miniature networks within my home. My mum and dad used to drive them crazy with it. But I just used to do things which there was a general interest. And at the moment, obviously like 10, 15 minutes into the interview, I'm not getting that interest really. You don't have to be passionate about it. It's just showing a general interest on the career path that you want to do or the career that you like.
So you said you were doing Azure, so you're familiarized with Azure Active Directory, is that correct?
Yeah, Azure Active Directory and on-prem Azure ADs as well.
On-prem Azure ADs, so you're pretty confident with that?
Yeah, we're working with both.
You say you're comfortable with like network shares, printer shares, network printers?
Yeah, network printers. I didn't work so much on them because a lot of the clients that we had internal people who do like printers and set up that kind of things, printers, phones. But there would be situations where I'd have to work on printers. So yeah.
So at this point of the interview, I got enough from him probably to realize that he may not have enough experience in the role that he's applying for. And the reason why I said that is because he was unable to kind of elaborate on the knowledge he generally has. So what I mean by elaboration, I asked him about, have you had any experiences with network shares and network printers, which is a standard thing you would have to deal with any environment to do with a domain, Active Directory, any kind of enterprise or low enterprise level or small business level or whatever. There will be some sort of network sharing. And it sounded like he hadn't had much experience with that. So from that point, I knew he was still more on first line support level. So I just went straight into the questions. Now the questions, I will really start the questions quite easy and then I kind of made them a little bit harder. And if I basically could tell that they can't actually answer most of the questions, then I kind of stopped the interview from that point. The person that I'm interviewing probably wouldn't know that I'm stopping it because of that reason, but I generally ask basic questions, then I ask a bit more challenging questions, and then I go real advanced questions to see where they're at. For me personally, the basic questions should be straightforward, challenging questions should be straightforward, and then advanced questions, if it's a bit here and there, I'm fine with that because I'm not looking for more the advanced aspects, but I'm looking for someone who knows enough about second line support, desktop support, network support, where therefore you could come come to the second part of the interview as well. So anyway, let me just continue. I'm just rambling on, but I just want to kind of explain to you what my mindset at this specific stage of the interview.
All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Just need to kind of gauge your knowledge base, if that's okay. We'll keep it simple. It won't be anything challenging. It's basically based on what I would think, what you should know, theoretically, considering you're doing first line support, touching a bit of network support as well. Can you tell me the purpose of a hard drive, please?
Hard drives collect all the data on the machine, kind of keeping the memory. It's not the quick memory, which that's what the RAM does.
Okay. Can you also, since you touched on the RAM, can you explain to me the purpose of RAM as well?
RAM is your instant kind of, I'm trying to say it in a non-technical way. RAM is the quickest bit of data that you keep. So say, for example, you're just searching the internet, that would be using RAM.
All right, cool. What's the purpose of a processor?
Processor is chip that's in the motherboard, kind of regulates the whole motherboard.
Okay. So can you give me an example of a low specification chip and a high specification chip?
So I think the main companies that do it is Intel.
Yeah. Okay.
Low specification would be like, I'm not sure the exact number, but it would be like an i3 processor, something like that. And then they've got the newer ones, which is the i7s. They're just quicker. I think it's 3.9 gigahertz.
Okay, cool.
I don't know the exact numbers.
Sorry, do you understand the family range of the processor chips?
No.
No, that's fine. No problem.
Okay, cool. So I asked 3 questions based there. I asked hard drive, RAM, and processor. The reason why I ask these questions is because for you to progress within IT and for you to understand every element of the stages you progress with, you need to understand the fundamentals of the devices that you're using, or how you're going to troubleshoot it, how you're going to be able to resolve it if you don't know what they're doing. You know, I asked him about the processors. The processors come in different ranges from, obviously, you know, he got it right regarding i3 to i7. You know, there's obviously weaker chips than that. There's Celerons, there's Intel basics, there's obviously Ryzen's, there's AMD, and then you've got family ranges. You've got different generations within those chips. For example, I'm using currently a laptop which is generation 8. So that generation 8 indicates the year that processing chip was made, which was maybe 2016, 2017, I think generation 8 chips came out. So that's how old the chip is. So even understanding the age of the chip, and if the chip is able to maximize the performance of the laptop that you're using to get the best performance on the operating system, you need to understand the concept of the age that you're using, or even the concept of like what speed the chips are running at. Understanding these kind of things. Anyway, I'm not going to go into far more into that, but you know, these little basic questions I was asking him, he kind of just talked around it, so that all that kind of indicated to me is that he's not very confident in exactly what the machine or hardware are doing. I mean, he obviously said the RAM and he mentioned hard drive. Again, he didn't explain what's the purpose of the RAM and what's the purpose of the processor, of how it kind of, like, these little fine little things says a lot about your interest in the product or interest in the role, for me anyway.
All right, let's touch a bit on networking. Okay, can you explain to me the purpose of Active Directory?
Active Directory is like pretty much cloud-based contact book in a way, so it's in simple terms. It just keeps everyone's details, whether they're logging into something, especially if you said you work for, there's a lot of schools, every school laptop needs more logins, so you probably use it quite often to keep everyone's passwords and keep everyone can separate and manage them into different groups as well, levels as well.
Okay, can you tell me the purpose of DHCP?
DHCP is, I'm not sure.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't need trick questions. Just want to gauge where you are. That's all. Would you know the purpose of DNS?
I'm not sure the purpose, but there's been times where I've had to change it on certain machines while working to help with connectivity.
Okay, cool. When you say you have to change to help, can you go a bit more detail?
So I put it to static DNS, or mainly the Google one, which is 4.4.4 and 8.8.8, just to help with sometimes machines having connectivity issues, and when you change it, it fixes those.
All right, great. What's the purpose of group policy management? That's the actual full name of it.
It just makes, it's within, from what I know, it's within Active Directory, where you group certain people into different permission roles, and they have different levels of permission that they can go to. So certain companies will have sites and files that only like senior members or kind of VIPs can access, and they'll be grouped into that.
Okay, cool. So that part was very interesting, and the reason why it kind of gave me the conclusion that he would not be suitable for the role, because unfortunately his knowledge based on networking wasn't strong enough. What he was doing in his existing role, or I think he said it again, his existing role, the role that I think he just left, no, actually he just left it, was doing the basic task on Active Directory. He did understand the element of group policy, but he clearly didn't have experience implementing group policy or applying any permissions using group policy based on the answers. Obviously, he didn't understand the fundamentals of what DHCP and DNS were exactly doing. He kind of talked a bit about DNS, but unfortunately it wasn't conclusive. He didn't understand the concept of the dynamics of why DNS is an essential part of DHCP and etc. regarding the whole Active Directory and domain. So from that point in the interview, from my head, I knew that unfortunately he wouldn't be suitable for the role. I then continued to give him scenario questions just to kind of gauge where, if he understood anything about networking as a whole.
Scenario questions. Let's say, how would you refresh group policy settings on a computer? If you had to manually do it, how would you refresh it?
I'm not sure. I haven't had much exposure to that.
That's okay. That's fine. A user reported that they're unable to connect to the network. What are the steps you would try and find to resolve that problem for the user?
So first off, start by seeing if they're connected over wireless or wired connection. Once I see, let's say for example, it's wired, I'll check the cable, check the cabling. If that's all fine, then I'd go to actually seeing if anyone else is affected in network, and from there I'll just keep troubleshooting.
All right, so let's say for example it's connected to the hardwired, it's plugged in, still not access to the network. What would you try then?
They're the only person that's affected.
Only person affected, yeah.
I'm stopping there because that scenario question that I did wasn't the greatest scenario question, to be fair to him. But I think the reason why I did that scenario question is because I already made up my mind if I was going to continue with interviewing him and take it to the second stage. I wasn't going to carry on the interview, as in he wasn't going to be successful, unfortunately. So I think it was a bit unfair for me to kind of, with that question, because the question I asked him before, I asked him basically a simple, if you know about Active Directory, domain, and etc., you know about all that kind of stuff. I asked him a simple question about how do you update group policy manually. Unfortunately, he was unable to answer that question. So this is a thing sometimes with the frustration when you're dealing with agencies, like recruitment agencies. What's the vetting system, you know? And a lot of these recruitment agencies, they're not really IT experts or have any clue about IT to try and get the candidate to get the job, to get their commission. Some recruitment agencies are better than others, but their vetting process is quite poor. This is someone who reached out to me and said to me the specific candidate will be perfect for the role, and unfortunately at this stage of the interview I already made my mind up that unfortunately he wouldn't be successful and we can't continue. I don't think he was a strong enough candidate for the role. The whole recruitment process is quite challenging, and then when you get recruitment agencies selling you the world and then therefore can't deliver, and that's where the frustration comes to as well, because you have to put time into this. I have to arrange time to do interview these people and obviously go to the next stage.
So I'd go in, a lot of the times with wired, I feel like it's more of a hardware issue.
Okay, so fault with the PC?
The port itself, the actual Ethernet port or the Ethernet cable coming from there. So I'll switch ports if it's possible, or even switch ports on from the wall.
No worries. Are you familiarized with the domain?
Yeah.
And what purpose of a domain is?
We have like domain controllers.
How would you add a computer to a domain network?
There's a few ways. Recently, what we have been adding is adding them by Azure AD. So we'd log in with like a host or an admin email, and that will put the machine on Azure AD. Or you're talking about on-prem ones?
That's fine. Yeah, so that cloud. What about on-prem?
On-prem, I haven't done it in a while to anything, but I remember doing, when you're setting up the machine, you can add it by domain. I'm pretty sure it's a similar way. You add it with like admin credentials.
Have you, sorry, go on. You want to finish off?
That's fine.
Okay. Have you had any experience or familiarity with setting up a network printer?
Not setting up, but I've worked on them, as in they stop printing and stuff like that.
Okay. If let's say, so you've worked with network printers. So for example, let's say if a network printer has stopped working, it's not printing anything, you see the jobs building up, what ways would you troubleshoot it?
Now you can see with that one, he says to me that he hasn't set up a network printer, but he's troubleshoot network printers. So I said, okay, cool. In my head, I was thinking, well, explain to me the steps that you do if a network printer stops working. What's the steps? Because he said to me that he's able to troubleshoot that. So let's see his reply.
It'll be similar to the Ethernet one. First, check if it's just a single user that's trying to print and it's not working, or if it's the whole everyone connected.
Again, print jobs are building up. It's a network printer. Let's say all the users have access to this and none of the users could print from it. So what steps would you do?
With a network printer, I'm sure you can remote on. If there's a management machine of some sort, you can remote on, have a look, see why it's not printing. Normally they come up with errors on the management page, or depending on what company, but I'm pretty sure most printers, they come up with just error messages, and then from there, which are the error messages.
Okay, cool. Do you have experience of creating a shared folders?
No.
No. Okay, cool.
We have a lot of the clients that I support, they're always using SharePoint and OneDrive.
Okay, so pretty much your experiences on the cloud,
Yeah.
just kind of managing cloud-based stuff. For example, have you had any experience on Intunes, doing deployments and rollout?
A lot of experience with Intune, SharePoint, OneDrive, all of these kind of cloud-based sharing.
Okay, can you talk to me about steps on how to enroll a workstation onto Intunes and then deploy permissions and the software too?
Never actually done that through Intune.
Never done it through Intunes. Okay, cool. All right, we'll leave it as that regarding questions.
So you could tell from that interview, especially the last part, he will say to me what his experience is in. So if I just asked him regarding like network share? Yeah, have you shared a folder, network share? And he said he hasn't. He's only deal with cloud-based stuff in Intunes. And I asked him, how do you do enrollment, deployment, and rollouts with Intunes, the MDM? And he was unable to answer the question. Unfortunately, the candidate obviously wasn't suitable for the role. I needed someone with a lot more experience. He still, for me, is a first-line support engineer. He's been doing that for 2 years, and unfortunately, if that's the level of knowledge he has, I don't know if IT is something that he's generally interested in. For me personally, having a first-line support engineer for 2 years, they should be able to kind of explain a lot more than what he was able to do in that interview. But good luck to him, and yeah, I wish him well for the future. But for me, it was basically back to the drawing board, and I had a few other people to interview as well. So this will be the first stage of a video regarding what I do, and then I'm going to do the second stage as well. So you'll see the second stage of whoever's done this part of the interview and done it well. I'm going to show you the second stage, hardware related, where it'll be practical. It'll be in a network environment. There'll be obviously switches, servers, computers, all on a network. They come in, it's messed up, go fix it because you said you can. So you guys will see that in my next video happening soon. I hope this was insightful and give you guys some insight of the process of the do's and the don'ts on interviews. Yeah, if you guys like it, please like, subscribe and share. I don't normally say that, like, subscribe and share, but it really gives me encouragement and enthusiasm to continue doing these videos as well. I do like doing these videos, but I also want to make sure that you guys are happy with the videos at the same time. So, okay, cool. See you guys on the next one.